Hello students, welcome to Legacy IS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the recently recognized breakaway regions of Ukraine by Russia. This act, what is its importance, what does it mean for the global context, especially from the India's point of view, and how this particular step by the Russia is significant in its own way. We are going to discuss in detail about this particular issue. So let us begin. The first reason why we are discussing about this particular issue is because yesterday on Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin has actually told his French and German counterparts that he is planning to sign a decree which has also been passed by the we can say the parliament of the Russia, and in this particular decree he is planning to recognize the two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine as independent regions which does not have any which does not belong to the territory of Ukraine. This comes in the background of almost 190,000 troops that has been amassed by the Russia on the Ukrainian border. This development can further lead to escalation of crisis in the Ukrainian regions in which whole United States as well as European Union can be dragged into. So let us try to understand geographically that the region that has been recognized by Russia, where are they situated and where these breakaway regions are. So as you look in the particular map, you can see we have two separate regions. One is called as Donetsk and other is called as Luhansk. These Donetsk and Luhansk region collectively are also known by the name of Donbas. So this is the region that Russia has recently recognized. If we talk about the history of these particular regions, so they actually broke away from the Ukrainian governmental control in year 2014. If I want to remind you that this was the year when actually Russia attacked Ukraine and annexed the Crimean region of Ukraine from its control. And there, when this pro-Russian groups or pro-Russian leaders separated from the Ukrainian government control, then they declared these two regions collectively called as Donbas as an independent people's republic. Since then, Ukraine alleges that almost 15,000 people have been killed in these particular regions due to continuous fighting between pro-Russian rebels and the Ukrainian military. Now, how did Russia responded to this? So Russia actually has responded by saying that it is not a party in the conflict. The reason is clear because Russia said on the government level, on the military level, it is not directly involved. People who are directly participating in the warfare or in the military conflict are actually the separatists. However, it is believed largely that these separatists or the pro-Russian separatists, they actually are supported covertly as well as sometimes overtly by the Russian government. The support is generally in these two regions have been given by in the terms of military support, in terms of financial aid for the development of the regions, as well as when the COVID struck, COVID vaccines, this Sputnik vaccine was also supplied to this particular region by the Russia. At the same time, Ukraine has not been able to, or Ukraine has not actually supported this Donbas region and have cut off even the pensions and the salaries of the employees that were employed in the industrial regions of these two particular areas once they separated from the Ukrainian territory. Not only that, on the level of citizens, since in these particular regions we have a dominance or large number of people who are ethnically Russians and also Russian speaking population is there, they reside. Should Russia on this ground have granted passport to at least 800,000 citizens or residents of these particular regions who actually due to this increase in the conflict have started to move back toward the Russian border or toward the Russian states. Now let us try to understand that on a global scale, this is a very important event that has unfolded in recent times. So what or how it can impact the global geopolitics. So first of all, as this can be seen as an aggressive stance of Russia toward the Ukraine, and if NATO and US participates in the future, it can directly lead to the open military intervention between the two military forces. Apart from that, since now Russia recognizes these two particular regions as its own territory and it's not part of Ukrainian territory, that means now it can send the forces or army in these areas and can wrest control of other Ukrainian controlled regions as well. That part of Donbas which is still not controlled by the we can say pro-Russian groups, but controlled by the Ukrainian government to some extent. And further, it can bring NATO and Russia in direct confrontation that can lead to escalation of crisis between nuclear powered neighbors or nuclear powered countries. Now, once this region, when Russia annexed Crimea and the Donbas region actually broke away from the Ukrainian territory or Ukrainian sovereignty, there was a process of diplomacy that began with European Union, Russia and Ukraine as three main parties, and they actually participated or started a process that is called as Minsk process. The Minsk process, Minsk is the capital of Belarus, which is again a older Soviet Union country that is situated at the border of Russia and Ukraine. And in this particular process, it was agreed by all the parties that a large degree of autonomy for the two regions inside Ukraine will be given to them. They will not become totally separate region from Ukraine, but they will enjoy a kind of sovereignty and independence, autonomy in a lot of different spheres, political spheres, financial spheres and all those things. Not only that, even countries have agreed that in future, if situations become normal, then both Ukraine and Russia will conduct a referendum, and based on the vote of the citizens, they can decide whether they want to join the Ukrainian territory or whether they want to become part of the Russian territory. So for this, almost a 12-point tripartite ceasefire deal was also announced under this Minsk process. Tripartite means three parties, that's Russia, Ukraine and European Union were involved, and this one of the most important point was that there will be a ceasefire and military conflict will not arise, or the military of both countries will not participate in the direct warfare. Apart from that, it also instituted a process or initiated the process of withdrawal of all foreign armed formations and military equipment from the two disputed regions. Now this is where it gets interesting, because withdrawal of all foreign armed formation means that Russia pressurizes Ukraine that it should withdraw all its Ukrainian military from these particular regions. At the same time, when Ukraine asks Russia to withdraw their military, Russia says that it does not have their own military in this region, because the armed forces that are stationed or that are present in this Donbas region are actually a separatist element. They are actually a separatist militia on which Russia does not have control, and that is why they cannot ask them to withdraw. So that is the whole problem that lies here. So obviously, since this comes under the backdrop or after the backdrop of the US and European Union continuously coming into media and we can say and warning Ukraine that Russia can attack anytime in the recent future to Ukraine, on Ukraine, and that is why the possible Western response that we can understand that could be actually instituted is the first of all the stringent financial sanctions that US have already announced, especially in the Donbas region. They have said that there will be no trade deals, there will be no export, import, all these things have been banned from immediate effect, and also in the future US can also try to bring Russia into the fold of sanctions, where they will try to cut off Russia from the financial global financial system, like cutting off the SWIFT system and all those things. Apart from that, US Secretary of State Blinken have also said that swift and firm response from United States and allies can be considered or will be given to Russia if it start to annex or it try to invade the Ukrainian regions. At the same time, the Ukrainian permanent representative to the United Nations Security Council have also said that this kind of events or this kind of steps by the Russia, the signing of decree, has actually undermined the Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and this constitute a gross violation of international law. This statement has been given by Ukraine, but also backed by the allies like Western European nations, especially United Kingdom as well as the United States of America. So now, do we have any other examples from the past where Russia has taken the same steps or not? So actually the answer is yes, that in the past, somewhere in year 2008, Russia have taken the same step when Georgia wanted to actually become part of NATO, and in response Russia actually annexed the Abkhazia region that you can see in the map here, this red region that belonged to Georgia, as well as the South Ossetia region of Georgia, on the ground that here large number of Russian speaking native population resides, and that is why they actually annexed this and made them a separate territory. However, in effect, these both territories of Abkhazia and South Ossetia as of now is being controlled by Russia. Not only that, after annexing these territories or after making these territories as independent territory, Russian has provided extensive budget support, and as well as similar like Donbas region, they have also extended Russian citizenship to the population that reside here, and also because now there is no other country that can oppose stationing of military there, Russia have stationed thousands of troops in this particular regions of Abkhazia and Ichkeria, which is very significant point, because these regions border the Black Sea region, and also it is nearby Turkey. Turkey is a member of NATO. So in that way, it gives Russia a leeway in the future war or in terms of future adverse relations if they develop between NATO and Russia. So if we look at the pros and cons of the steps that has been taken by Russia regarding the recognition of Donbas region as a separate territory. So first of all, the pros is similarly as in the case of Georgia, when Russia annexed Abkhazia and South Ossetia, Georgia's dream or Georgia's aspiration of becoming a NATO member was seized, NATO member was crushed, and same effect can be observed, or same effect is expected by Russian government generally, that Ukraine will give up its aspiration of NATO membership. At the same time, since they have in effect broke away this this Donbas region, this can act as a buffer region. If NATO tries to put their military installations and all these things in Ukraine, then this Donbas will act as a buffer between Russian main territory and the Ukrainian territory. However, if you look at the cons, then obviously Russia will have to face the consequences of this particular step. The first cons is that obviously, as US and European Union is continuously saying that they can impose sanctions, especially financial sanctions, and also Russia will have to face international condemnation as an aggressor state having broken away the part of territorial integrity of Ukraine. At the same time, financially, not only that, it will also have to incur huge expenditure, as these regions as the cost and the finances of these two breakaway regions have to be borne by Russia now. These territories have to be borne by Russia now. At the same time, Russia can also face problems in further diplomatic engagement in the future, because Russia was a main party of Minsk agreement, Minsk process, and Russia actually, we can say, Russia actually has agreed upon that all the steps that they will take will be in accordance with the Minsk agreement. However, the breaking away of these two particular regions is kind of reneging on the diplomatic deals, diplomatic efforts and peace deal, which can have further consequences in the future. So obviously, since all this process is going on between Russia and Ukraine, let us try to understand that what is the importance of Ukraine, not only from Russia, but from a global perspective. So economically, we can divide the Ukrainian importance into three parts. First, the importance from the minerals perspective. So let's try to look at some pictures to understand what is the importance of Ukraine in the mineral contribution to the world. So as far as uranium ores are concerned, it has the highest uranium ore reserve in the Europe. It has first position in Europe. At the same time, the iron ore reserves, in terms of iron ore reserves, Ukraine holds second highest position in the world. Similarly, it has second largest mercury ore reserve. It has one of the largest shale gas reserves, and at the same time, if you look at the total value of natural resources, if we add all the minerals, then it comes around fourth on the global scale, which is a very significant number. Looking at from the agricultural perspective, Ukraine has the largest arable area in the Europe. Also, in terms of black soil, it has the third largest black soil in terms of area. Black soil is very good fertile soil, especially for cultivation of spring wheat and the cotton, and it is the region is called as Chernozem. Chernozem means black soil. So Ukraine has the third largest black soil in the world. At the same time, large area of agricultural area of Ukraine is suitable for cultivation of oil seeds, especially sunflower, and that is why it is the largest exporter of sunflower oils in the world. And if you look at the overall agricultural output, crop output or crop production of Ukraine, it can actually meet food demands of 600 million people, which is very significantly high number. Also, if you look at from the perspective of industrial development, Ukraine has third position in the number of nuclear power plants in the Europe. At the same time, it is the fourth largest exporter of turbines, that is utilized for the wind energy generation. Globally, it occupies or holds a ninth position in the terms of defense goods and services production, and is the 10th largest steel producer of the world. So in that terms, Ukraine is a very significantly industrially developed country, and that is where this whole thing you have to understand in this perspective, that the maximum number of industries of Ukraine are situated in the eastern area, which is near the border of this Donbas region, and large number of industries are also situated in Donbas. So if Russia is able to break away or take away a chunk of these eastern regions of Ukraine, all the major industries or large part of industries and minerals of Ukraine will actually come under the control of Russia. So in that way, it will also economically weaken the Ukraine, and it will have a certain advantage to the Russia itself. Now we have to understand, obviously, from the perspective of India, what is the stake for India if escalation happens between Russia and Ukraine, and what will the effect on the economy of India. So obviously, the first effect which we can see even today, that when the Russia announced the annexation of this, or this decree was signed by Russian president recognizing Donbas separate region, it caused sudden spike in the oil prices, and as of today, the oil prices is trading at the highest value, the highest cost since year 2014. And if the de-escalation does not happen fast, then we can expect the oil prices to increase, because there will be a supply side disruption, as Russia is the second largest producer of crude oil in the world. At the same time, we have to understand that India will also, and because of the increase in oil prices, obviously India will have to bear the brunt of high inflation that can erode the we can say income of the Indian citizens, and also can cause problems in the economy. Second, if you look at from the military point of view, then obviously now if US decides to impose sanctions on Russia, and we know that Russia is the very significant or most significant trade partner, India has most significant trade partnership with Russia as far as the military supply is concerned. The best example is the recently acquired S-400 anti-missile defense system by India. So these all can come under the US sanctions, and then US is also, since India has very good relationship and US is very strong ally of India, India will have to navigate a very thin water or navigate a very shallow water in that particular sense. Till now, US has been able to give exceptions to India as far as the military supply from Russia is concerned, but if situations changes, US can pressurize India to stop military supply from Russia. In that case, India will have to deal with the new challenges. At the same time, the interest of diaspora is also something that India will have to take into consideration, because as of now, as per the government figure, around 15,000 to 20,000 Indian students alone are studying in different Ukrainian regions, and also large number of businessmen and other citizens are also residing in these regions. So in case war or this kind of situation emerges, India will take care of interest of diaspora, and also will have to bring them back or will have to evacuate them back. So these are the major stakes for India. One other important thing we have taken into perspective is the challenge of China. That is also something that this situation can actually aggravate the situation in the Indo-China border, because if both Russia and US get engaged directly in European Union, China can take advantage of this and actually try to annex or try to occupy the Indian territory, especially in the Aksai Chin region and the northeastern regions. And since due to the Russia being alone in the United Nations Security Council due to its step toward Ukraine, China is the only country that is supporting directly Russia, and China and Russia have very good relationship as of now. Also in future, Russia will acquire the support of China and will need the support of China, not only United Nations Security Council, but also at the global level. And in that case, China and Russia, if they become very closer, China can apply pressure or put pressure on Russia to decrease the military supply to India, which can be advantageous to China. So that is also something from the strategic perspective we have to take into consideration. However, if you look at what has been India's response on this particular issue or step taken by Russia, so India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. T.S. Trimurti, he has said that India has actually called for restraint on all the sides and have stated the escalation of tension along the border of Ukraine with the Russian Federation is a matter of deep concern, and the immediate priority should be de-escalation of tensions, and both parties should take into consideration the legitimate security interest of all the countries, and globally we should aim towards securing long-term peace and stability in the region and beyond. That is all about the India's response in this particular situation. So that was all about the recent news or recent issue regarding Russia and Ukraine. I hope you understood about this issue clearly. So that's all for today. We'll come again soon with another interesting topic. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.